So you click buy on something from halfway across the world. Ever stop and think about the insane journey that little package takes to get to you? A huge piece of that puzzle, and one that's almost totally invisible, is the digital brain of a global port. And that's what we're diving into today, this incredibly complex system that, believe it or not, we're going to make super simple. Yeah, just try to picture it. It's basically a city made of steel containers. You've got thousands of ships, trucks, massive cranes, all moving at the same time. So how in the world does every single one of those millions of containers get exactly where it needs to go without getting totally lost in all that chaos? Well, the answer is this amazing digital orchestra conductor. It's a system that makes sure every single instrument in this massive port symphony is playing in perfect harmony. People love to call this system the central nervous system of the port. And honestly, that's the perfect way to think about it, right? Just like our own nervous system, it's constantly sensing what's going on, it's processing all that information, and then it directs every single action. It's what turns this chaotic mess of ships and boxes into one single coordinated machine. When you boil it all down, this digital brain has one massive job: to perfectly manage three critical flows that are all happening at the same time 24/7. Okay, so think of it like you're trying to juggle three balls at once. You've got the physical container itself, that's one ball. Then you have all the digital data about that container, that's ball number two. And finally, you've got the money, the financial transactions for its journey, that's your third ball. Now, if you drop just one of those, the whole show grinds to a halt. The real secret to a super efficient port is keeping all three of those balls in the air, moving together flawlessly. All right, so let's pop the hood and really take a look at the anatomy of this thing. We're going to see how the world you can see, the steel, the ships, is completely controlled by this invisible world of data. This slide really lays it out perfectly, the two sides of the same coin. Over on the left, you've got everything you can see, and here, the huge ships docking, the cranes moving, the trucks hauling. But on the right, that's the silent, invisible flow of information that is literally orchestrating every single one of those physical movements. You got to understand, every time a crane lifts a container, it's because a data point told it to. Every truck that's dispatched, an algorithm sent it on its way. So the system itself is actually built from a bunch of key pieces or modules that you're seeing here. You've got functions for managing the cargo, running the terminals, handling the ships in their transit, and of course, all the complicated customs and warehousing logistics. The magic is that all of these parts are talking to each other, constantly sharing information to keep the whole port humming along smoothly. And the level of precision here is just astounding. We're talking every single container tracked in real time with GPS. Every ship's arrival is planned down to the minute. Using these advanced scheduling systems, they're often called a BTP, which stands for Berthing and Terminal Planner. The whole point is to make sure a berth is open and ready the exact moment that ship arrives. There's absolutely zero wasted time. But here's where things get really interesting. Today, we're seeing this massive leap forward. We're moving from a port that's just automated to one that's truly intelligent. This is where we add a whole new layer of predictive, adaptive intelligence, a system that can pretty much think for itself. It all starts with something you've probably heard of, the Internet of Things, or IoT. We're talking thousands of tiny sensors on everything: trucks, cranes, even the containers themselves. And they're all constantly feeding real-time data back to the central brain. Things like speed, location, fuel levels, even the temperature inside a refrigerated container. It basically creates a live, breathing, digital map of everything happening on the ground at that very second. So what do you do with all that data from the IoT? Well, that's where big data analytics comes in. These powerful systems sift through these enormous streams of information to spot patterns that a human could never see. For example, the system might notice that a specific truck route gets jammed up every single Tuesday afternoon. So it can proactively reroute traffic before the bottleneck even starts. It's about solving problems before they happen. Now, with all this data and all this money flying around, trust is absolutely critical. And that is where blockchain enters the picture. It creates this super secure, unchangeable digital record for all the documents and transactions. Think of it like a single source of truth that everyone involved, the shipping company, customs, the port, can rely on. This just massively cuts down on fraud and arguments. And finally, you have artificial intelligence. This is the real brain of the operation that puts all the pieces together. The AI takes the data from IoT, which has been analyzed by big data and secured by blockchain, and it uses all of that to make truly smart decisions. It can create the most optimal schedules for ships and cranes. And the best part? The more data it gets, the smarter it becomes, constantly learning and making the port more and more efficient over time. Okay, so you've got all this incredible technology, but how do you get all the different people to play nicely together? The government agencies, the private companies, the customs officials. How do you cut through all that red tape? Well, usually you've got two main players. There's a government body, like a maritime bureau, that sets the rules and regulations. And then you have a port corporation that's actually running the day-to-day business. Now, in the old days, getting these two to coordinate was a bureaucratic nightmare. We're talking mountains of paperwork and just constant delay. The solution is actually a really elegant idea called a single window service. A system like MTNet acts as one single digital doorway for every single interaction with the port. You can think of it like a universal translator and a super efficient personal assistant all rolled into one. So, here's how it works. A shipping agent just submits all of their declarations to this one single portal. That's it. The system then automatically figures out who needs what and sends the necessary info to all the right agencies. This group is often called CIQS, which stands for Customs, Immigration, Quarantine, and Security. The result? A crazy reduction in paperwork and processing time. So what's the big payoff for all of this tech and investment? I mean, why is this so important? Well, it's because a smart port doesn't just make a city run better, it actually makes an entire country more competitive on the world stage. First off, they are just so much faster. I mean, unbelievably faster. By automating all the scheduling and paperwork, smart ports have managed to cut the time it takes to get a container off a ship and onto a truck from what used to be hours, down to just a few minutes. That is a total game changer. Second, they're way safer. That real-time tracking means cargo almost never gets lost. And because all the documents are digital and tamper-proof, the risk of things like forgery or theft goes way, way down. This builds a huge amount of transparency and trust all the way through the supply chain. And look, when things get faster and safer, they almost always get cheaper. It just makes sense, right? Shorter wait times for ships, fewer mistakes with cargo, all of that translates directly into lower operational costs. And in the end, those savings can even be passed on to us, the consumers. So there you have it. These are the 4 pillars of success: better efficiency, total transparency, lower costs, and a massive boost in competitiveness. It's this powerful engine for a country's economic strength, and it proves that the smartest way to move goods is also the best way for the economy. Which brings us to one last, pretty fascinating question. These ports, they are the gateways of global trade. They're the arteries of our world economy. So as they become truly intelligent, as they start to predict the future, what's that going to do to the speed and maybe even the very nature of the world itself?